Hello, everyone. I'm Mr. Howard Yu. I'd like to share with you some important news about this year PSLE, and this is my sincere recommendation to MOE as well as to SEAB. I'm a former PSLE Science marker and also an author for the Mastering P5, P6 Science OEQ. So today's my presentation is about some interesting findings. And while I was a former MOE teacher teaching in Pei-Hwa Presbyterian Primary School, representing the schools in marking the PSLE for 3 times. So today I'd like to share with you what examiners are looking for. They are looking for precise scientific answers, and candidates must be able to demonstrate applications of concepts. And that is the focus. And these are the application of knowledge and process skills. Pupils should be able to apply scientific facts, concepts, and principles to new situations. So for example, currently I'm teaching this food chain and food web. And this child actually, she did very well. She scored 96%, which is equivalent to AL1. You can see in this food chain that's been connected quite well to form a food web. And she get all correct for these questions. And let's move on to the next part, where I like to recommend MOE to resume the testing of the 3 topics which were removed during the COVID pandemic in the 2020 and 2021 PSLE Science, especially in the topic of food chain, food web. Because, nowadays, supply chain analysis is actually mission critical in wars and in pandemic. So by learning this topic and being tested, students will develop this awareness of supply chain analysis, which is a very essential skills eventually as they go out to work in the society. And then let's look at this food web. And this question I set recently for them to test their capability. And one of the skills I encourage them to do is to circle and label the plants whenever they see a food web. So the student have indicated M, and there's a plant, and she got a marks. And there are many students who have difficulty in filling out these boxes. Prey only, predators, both prey and predators. So you can see Z is the apex predator. That's mean nobody is Z. And similarly for F. So Z and F qualifies for predators only. And for prey, you can see prey, it means that it is an animal that's being eaten by another animal. Notice it must be an animal. So therefore, you see M, because M is a plant, it doesn't qualify as a prey. To qualify for prey itself must be an animal. So can you see there are these 3 animals, T, G, and R, because they eat plants, they are herbivores, as indicated here, GTR, they are herbivores, and they're also being eaten by another animal. That's why it's qualified as prey only. And then the next column is both prey and predator. It means that this animal is being eaten by another animal, but itself also eats another animal. So you can see in this food web is the organism S, because S itself is being eaten by Z and also being eaten by P. So in this situation, S is a prey to organism P and organism Z. But itself, S is the predator of G, because G is being eaten by S. Get it? So that's why S is both a prey and a predator. And similarly, for organism P, as you can see, organism P, right, is here. So P is being eaten by Z. So P is a prey of Z. At the same time, P also eats R. So R is being eaten by P. So P also eats S. So P, or organism P, is a predator of organism R and S. And you can see here, actually, in the next part, omnivore means an animal that eats both plants and animal. So there's only one omnivore, you can see here, because this is plant, right? They have indicated plant, so you just follow the arrow that's being indicated. So Z eats plant. Can you see Z also eats another animal? So Z is the only omnivore. And this can be easily fill up here. So excellent, Kayla. Let's continue with the next questions. And once again, I highly recommend MOE and SEAB to resume the testing of the 3 topics which were removed during the 2 years of PSLE. Why? Because as you know, animals adaptations, global warming, food chains, and food webs, these are mission critical things in the current volatile environment, and adaptability is essential for survival. Let's look at this very interesting question. This is a food web in a garden community. And I drew this animal here. This is an aphid. This is a ladybird. Okay, it's called ladybird. A ladybird actually feeds on aphids. Aphids actually, they use their proboscis to be inserted into the stem of some plants, and then they suck out the water and even the food. So it's here, say, list the group of organisms that will increase in number if there's an increase in the ladybird population. So this annotation, the arrow which I drew here, is the skill which I have taught my students to do so. So what they do is follow the instructions. If there's an increase in the number of bird population, okay, so bird is here, so they put an arrow up. Because if bird increase, ladybird and spider population will drop because these are being eaten by ladybird as well as caterpillar. So can you see? So if the ladybird's population decrease, the aphids population will increase because the aphids will have less predator eating them. And similarly, if the number of spiders drop, the white flies being eaten by spider would increase because there are less predator. So you can see some students, they are not careful. They have included the plant. Okay, why? Because they see linearly, okay, linearly across this way. But they forgot there are 2 other organisms involving the population of plants. If they see only linearly, caterpillar drop, then they'll put plant increase. But however, you notice plant is also eaten by aphids and whitefly. And during this scenario, both the populations of aphids and whitefly also increase. So the overall effect for the plant population will be a decrease in plant population, because although the caterpillar's population dropped, but 2 other consumers increase, which is the populations of the aphids and whitefly. So this answer is actually only the aphids and whitefly population would increase. So therefore, I highly recommend MOE and SEAB to resume the testing of these very important topics of food chain and food web, and also on adaptations, which I will share in the next video on some questions on adaptations and global warming. Because once again, in the current volatile environment, adaptability is essential for survival. So in school, we talk about national education. So why we remove this topic? Is it because we scared the students cannot have time to finish? But now we are already living in this mentality, living with COVID, and very thankful for the government for the reopening of the socializations yesterday on the 29th of March. So that's why I hope that the government can consider seriously to resume the full testing capability of our PSLE. And let's look at another food web here. And the student did quite well. Okay, this question I like to discuss because it says, what will be the immediate effect if all the algae in the community were removed? Okay, can you see algae here? It has 3 organisms directly affecting it. There's a guppy eats algae, water flea eats algae, and tadpole. So if the student is not careful, the student will write the population of tadpole, water flea, and guppies would decrease. Because assuming the algae population will remove, right, there's been no algae. So definitely the water flea and guppies will not have food. So naturally the population will drop. However, the student is not alert because tadpole also has another alternative food source. Just like Singapore, we cannot solely depend on Malaysia for water. We must be self-reliant. We build our reservoirs both open and covered. And also we cannot depend on only one source of so-called oil from maybe other countries. We need to find alternative sources. So the tadpole here, I'm actually allowing you to see the connection between testing this topic and our volatile global environment. So we have alternative food source. TAPO has alternative food source, and Singapore also must have alternative fuel and food source. So only the population of the water flea and the guppies would decrease. Okay, there's no explanation required. I can actually make it more difficult to ask the student, explain your answer. Okay, to explain your answer, because water flea and guppies has only one food source, which is the algae. Why the tadpole population is not affected so drastically? Because tadpole has alternative food source, which is Elodia. So once again, I seriously appeal to MOE and SEAB to the resumption of the testing of these three topics, which were removed during the pandemic 2021, because I understand that during that time, the school may not have time to cover this, but now we have this living with COVID. And even as a science tutor myself, I already taught this topic, and now I've already covered the animals and plants adaptations. So I look forward to coach your child who is in one academy. And for those who have not able to come, you can actually subscribe to my YouTube channel, One Academy YouTube. And also we need to be thankful because during the pandemic, parents have actually adopted to learning online. So in fact, my subscribership and viewership has increased during the pandemic. So we need to be thankful. Just like in business, they call 把危机转为商机, to turn the crisis into opportunities. So in these questions, it's very important because this is a water cycle questions commonly tested in P5 SA1 as well and SA2. Many students are not careful. They use the word air. Okay, if air lost heat, right, and condensed, you know what will happen? Because air is a mixture of nitrogen, 78%, oxygen, 21%, and other rare gases and carbon dioxide. If you put the word air with lost heat and condense, that's mean they will form liquid oxygen and liquid nitrogen. So this is something that some students or even teachers are not careful. They should use the word water vapor. Okay, water vapor lost heat to the surrounding, condensed to form water droplets. So you can see this is the actual 2020 PSLE Science question 40 on the frozen food. You can visit my YouTube channel to see the full solutions and my explanation. And this is the new grading AL score which started. And for science, it's very possible to have 3 AL jump. That's been from AL5 to AL2 is possible for science. And there are many testimony towards that. And these were students from one single school, 11 students. They came for my one-day training, and all of them make improvement. The most significant improvement is 54% improvement from 55 marks before my training to 83.5 marks in her SA2. So another heartwarming thing is this student learned very well, and she was the only student in the class during the P6 prelim get the full marks awarded for these 5-mark questions. And a little bit of selling here. This is my book, which can be purchased, mail order, and through this contact, 8268-5299. And do remember to subscribe to my One Academy channel, which has now about 380 subscribers. And once again, the AL3 grades is possible. Parent, just believe it is possible to have a 3 AL grade jumps from AL5, 65 marks or even 74 to an AL2 grade, which is at 80 marks. It's possible for science if your child joins early. So don't miss out this, although it's P5. Why P6 join P5? Parent may ask. The result is very simple, or the answer is very simple. Because, as you know, if you analyze the PSLE paper, up to 65% of PSLE science content are from P3 to P5. So that's means if your child did not do very well in his or her P5 SA2, and your child is in P6 this year, taking the PSLE, I highly recommend you subscribe or you enroll your child to my training. Now only have 3 seats left as of today, 31st of March, 2022. And this is my signature training. Every year, parents recommend me to conduct. Some parents, kiasu, even waited 1 year before they reserved the seat. So my run 1 on 6 and 7 has been filled. Run 2 has two sign up. So I have 6 vacancy left because I kept my class size to 8 students. And run 3 is full online. So that will suit everyone whose child can learn online well. So you can screenshot this and call me at this number if you want to find out more details. I shall not delay more because time is precious. And once again, I invite you to consider my training, One Academy, and my contact is here. And once again, I highly recommend MOE to reconsider the testing of the 3 topics which were removed during the 2020 and 2021 PSLE Science, because I want to reiterate, food chains, food webs, adaptations, global warmings, these are life issues. Because we train students or we teach students not only for exam, we want to equip them with life skills that can handle the constantly evolving volatile situations around us, just like the Russian-Ukraine war, food shortages, mass shortages during our pandemic, if you remember, during the COVID period, and also adaptations, how we must adapt. If you notice in Singapore, we have seen more vertical gardens. This is to prepare in the future that we need to be more self-reliant on our food sources. So once again, I highly recommend MOE and SEAB to resume the testing of the 3 topics that were removed during the COVID pandemic. So I'd like to send my greetings to every one of you. I'm Mr. Howard Yu. Stay safe, take care, and God bless.